Okay, so you know how sometimes you send us down these, well, these really fascinating rabbit holes.
Oh, yeah. Happens all the time.
You hear something interesting, maybe a little out there, and you ask us, can you look into the sources on this?
And recently, one story has definitely been popping up quite a bit. A lot of listener interest in this specific claim.
It really has. And that claim, it's that the legendary Black Knight satellite has been shot down.
Yeah, quite the claim.
So before we jump into the sources you sent us, let's just quickly set the scene. What is the Black Knight satellite based purely on the info we got in this material?
Okay, so according to this source material, the Black Knight is, well, it's alleged to be an alien object, maybe a satellite, orbiting Earth.
Right. And the source says it's supposedly like 13,000 years old.
Yeah, 13,000 years. And detected orbiting way back maybe the 1940s, 1950s. That's what the source material claims.
And what really jumps out from the description is that it wasn't just spotted. The source mentions claims of like strange radio signals and that it was seen changing speed, changing position. Sometimes they apparently even lost track of it completely.
And it wasn't just official trackers, right? The source mentions amateur astronomers supposedly detecting it over the years, too. Adds to the whole mystery vibe.
Exactly. So it's this long-running thing in, certain circles. And now there's this new story, the shoot down.
Alleged shoot down, yeah.
Precisely. So our goal for this deep dive is to take the specific stuff you sent, mostly a YouTube video and some articles discussed in the audio source, and really unpack it.
To figure out what's being claimed, who's claiming it.
And crucially, what the source you sent us actually thought about it all. We're basically looking over their shoulder, following their investigation.
Think of it like that, yeah. We're following the thread they laid out, focusing on their analysis of the whole thing. Should be interesting.
Absolutely. Okay, let's get into this wild claim then. The absolute core of it, the thing that seems to have ticked off all the messages you sent, is a video.
A video. And it supposedly shows the Black Knight being shot down.
The source describes it as showing something flying through the sky on fire. Like a fireball, basically.
Yeah, a fireball.
Yeah.
And then it looks like something else, maybe a smaller object, comes out of the fireball.
Yeah.
And flies off, like, into space.
So that's the visual. Fireball, something leaving it. But the story that got wrapped around this video, according to our source material.
Wow.
Wow. It's incredibly elaborate.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, the source we're looking at found this story, let's just use their words, very sketchy.
Yeah, that's putting it mildly. The source immediately points to an article on Disclosed TV as sort of the starting point for this narrative.
And they highlight how quickly it all gets, well, weird.
Super weird.
Yeah.
Because that article claims that just like 2 days before this video popped up, a secret server somehow connected to WikiLeaks was used.
Right. Used to upload a huge amount of data from some unknown source.
And here's the kicker. All this data was supposedly tagged with, like, references to the Black Knight satellite.
Metadata, right. Exactly. Black Knight meta tags. And then the source notes, this narrative tries to tie it way back. Brings in Nikola Tesla.
Oh, of course. Claims Tesla detected this thing back in 1932.
And apparently believed it was alien monitoring mankind. So you've got Tesla, WikiLeaks, secret data. It just keeps piling on.
It really does. And then the source tells us this Disclosed TV article claims that a YouTuber's account got hacked.
Hacked. And this specific video, the shoot down one, was uploaded to that hacked account.
This is where it gets even more sci-fi, if that's possible. The source really flagged the weapon mentioned.
Oh, yeah.
According to the article, which cites the supposed WikiLeaks documents, the weapon used was an antimatter warhead.
An antimatter warhead. I mean,
Yeah.
the source couldn't help but point out how, fantastical that sounds. It's such an extreme detail.
It really is. And the story keeps going. Claims a secret aircraft carried out the attack.
Okay.
And then, after the impact, this ties back to the video, several escape pods supposedly launched back into space.
Ah, so that's their explanation for the little object seen leaving the fireball. Alien escape pods.
Apparently so.
So let's just recap the layers here. A 13,000-year-old alien satellite, possibly detected by Tesla, suddenly has data about it dumped on a secret WikiLeaks server. Then a video of it being shot down by an antimatter warhead from a secret plane appears on a hacked YouTube channel, and alien escape pods flee the scene.
Phew, yeah. It's a lot.
It is. And the source's analysis, it's not just relaying the claims, they're really questioning the whole chain of custody, if you will.
Right. They look at this elaborate backstory, the way it supposedly spread, and just highlight all the reason is immediately felt off. raise huge red flags for them.
Let's dig into that because this is where the source really focuses its skepticism. They first encountered this video on a YouTube channel called UFO Today.
Okay, UFO Today. And that channel claimed in their description that they got it from another channel that was hacked.
And supposedly the owner of the hacked channel gave UFO Today permission to re-upload it.
Right. So the source did the logical thing. They followed that trail back, tried to find the alleged original upload location.
And this is where our source found what they called the immediate, blinking red flags. Because the name of the channel that was supposedly hacked, the place where this world-changing leak allegedly first appeared.
Go on.
Sexy girls and random stuff.
Slight pause, you're kidding?
Nope. Sexy girls and random stuff.
Okay, wow. That detail alone, as the source points out, is just almost comically out of place.
Totally. The source describes the channel's vibe, the thumbnail, everything. It just screamed unrelated, nothing serious, nothing secret, nothing government.
It sounds like trolling, basically.
That's what the source heavily implies. The logic is just absurd. Whoever had this incredible footage, WikiLeaks, anonymous, aliens themselves, they hacked that channel to drop this bombshell video.
It makes no sense.
And it gets better, or worse, depending on your perspective. The description on that channel, the Sexy Girls one, allegedly claims that Anonymous has hacked this channel to post this video.
Oh, so now Anonymous is involved too.
Apparently. So it's WikiLeaks, Tesla, antimatter, secret plane, escape pods, and Anonymous hacking a random Sexy Girls channel.
The source just looks at this whole tangled mess
and concludes pretty definitively that the story itself is very, very sketchy. Their words again, and not on the level.
You can see why they were hesitant to even cover it initially. The whole presentation just felt questionable from the get-go.
Yeah, they pointed to specific things. The way the video itself is edited, that bizarre channel choice.
It even mentioned something about the footage looking weird, like the perspective. Part black, part stars.
Right. All these details together just made the narrative feel incredibly dubious to the source. Like someone cooked up a wild story to fit around some footage they found.
Okay, but this is where the source's analysis takes an interesting turn, right?
Yeah.
Because if the story is so sketchy, why bother?
Exactly. Why spend time on it? Because despite all the absurdity surrounding the story, the source honed in on one thing they thought might be legit.
Which was?
The core fireball footage itself.
Ah, okay. So, setting aside the story for a second.
Yeah, they looked past the antimatter warheads and escape pods and just looked at the visual of something burning up in the sky.
And that part looked real.
The source notes that this bit, the fireball part, really looks like legitimate footage of something burning up in the atmosphere. It had the feel of, a real meteor video or space junk reentry.
Okay, that's interesting. So that became the new focus.
Pretty much. That's what kept the source digging. Their goal shifted to trying to find the original source of just the fireball footage. Not necessarily proving the shootdown, but figuring out what that visual actually showed.
And crucially, the source highlights that even in that seemingly legit footage, you do see that detail the story latched onto.
Yeah, where something does appear to exit or coming out of this debris at the end that continues flying. That bit is apparently visible in the core footage.
Okay, so forget the whole Black Knight, antimatter, WikiLeaks, hacked channel narrative for a second.
Right.
The underlying footage itself seems to show a fiery object breaking apart and a smaller piece detaching and carrying on.
Exactly. Which leaves us with the source's main questions about that specific footage.
Like, what could it actually be?
Could it be just a standard rocket launch, maybe a stage separation?
Or actual space debris breaking up in a slightly unusual way?
Or, and this is the long shot given the context, is it possible, despite all the sketchy stuff around it, that the footage is a real leak of something genuinely weird happening up there?
That's the lingering question the source had about the footage itself.
Yeah. And the source even mentioned trying to follow up, like commenting on the UFO Today channel.
And hearing that the supposed owner of the Sexy Girls and Random Stuff channel was maybe talking to YouTube, trying to figure out what happened to their account.
Which just adds another layer of strange, doesn't it? Regardless of what the footage shows, the path it took seems bizarre.
It really has. Very convoluted.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. We've looked at the sources you sent about this alleged Black Knight satellite takedown. We followed the investigation laid out by the source material.
Yeah, starting with that pretty wild claim, digging through the backstory, which, as the source stressed, felt highly questionable. Tesla, WikiLeaks, antimatter, hacked channels, escape pods, the works.
The whole 9 yards. And key takeaway from the material you provided, the main insight our source pulled out, is that while the narrative seems very sketchy and likely made up.
The actual footage at the heart of it, that fireball breaking up, something leaving it, that part looked potentially real.
Right. And the origin of that footage became the real mystery for the source. It raises questions, even if it's got nothing to do with the Black Knight legend itself.
This whole deep dive, it really shows how these big, compelling mysteries, like the Black Knight, can attract all sorts of crazy stories.
Absolutely. And sometimes those stories grab unrelated bits of footage, maybe misinterpreted footage, and weave this whole fiction around it.
It really underscores how important it is when you see some sensational claim online to look beyond just the cool visuals.
Huh?
You got to scrutinize the story, who's telling it, where they supposedly got the info. Especially, as our source kept saying, when it just feels very, very sketchy.
Well said. Which leaves us with a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on.
Okay.
How does seemingly real footage, maybe just a meteor, maybe space junk, who knows, how does it get pulled into these incredibly elaborate but totally unsubstantiated narratives so effectively?
Yeah. And what does that tell us about the information we swim through online every single day?
Something to think about.